So this week we are going to be focusing on the pestle analysis. So we actually continue with the macro environmental analysis. Last week we looked at, in fact, what is it that we looked at last week? I can't be narrating this on my own as if you guys are not in class. As a recap, what is it that we looked at last week? Mrs. Mosala.
So I'm trying to look in my book because honestly, I was very sleepy on Friday, but I remember I took notes. So I'm trying to find that. We spoke about political forces and I think e-government and internet governance.
Okay. So last week, we actually did an introduction to the pestle analysis because the week before we were looking at the microenvironment. So a week before we looked at intermediaries, we looked at competitors, we also looked at customers. Then last week we introduced the macroenvironment where we looked at the pestle on its own. We did some exercises on the SMS messaging platforms, as well as the mobile applications. We then discussed the economic factors influencing digital marketing. On the economic factors, we unpacked a link between technology and the economy. We then did some analysis on Takealot. If you remember, we had some discussions. I think it was room 1 on Thursday. Then when we looked at the economic factors on Friday, we looked at the political factors, the one that you actually mentioned this morning, before this class at the beginning. So the two components of the pestle analysis that we looked at, the economic and the political. So this week, we are going to look at other factors of the macro environment, which are legal, social, and environment. So those are the ones that we did not look at last week. So today we're going to focus on the legal forces. As mentioned when I introduced this topic, I said that there are some links between political forces and legal forces. The main link would be that laws are debated by politicians, be it those in parliament or those at any legislature, which might be municipal legislature or provincial legislature. So politicians from different political parties, they then sign a bill into legal law that can be tested in the court of law. So that's the link between legal forces and political forces. We spoke about the political nature of the digital environment. We spoke about the internet governance. We spoke about taxation, which are laws. So for example, if taxation is a political force that influences internet access, if that taxation law is violated, it becomes a legal force because you can then be fined or be sentenced to a specific minimum in prison if you violate that law on taxation. So you have to be very careful when you are discussing the legal factors and the political factors because they are interlinked. So we spoke about political control and democracy. We spoke about internet governance. I gave you guys the instances in which the government can actually shut down the internet, especially when there's terrorism or when there's an actual threat to infrastructure or to society at large. We also spoke about taxation. I gave you guys examples, especially in Uganda, where citizens are taxed to be online. We also spoke about social media and political change, how repressive governments could control the narrative and the access to social media platforms in an attempt to squash any regime change or political change agendas. So with this lesson, we are going to unpack data protection and privacy laws. We are going to understand disability and discrimination law. We are going to understand brand and trademark protection. We are going to be able to describe IP rights, and you should also be able to unpack online advertising laws. So these are laws that affect digital marketing planning as well as digital marketing strategy. So whenever you are coming up with a strategy with marketing planning, you need to be considerate of the things that are happening in the environment when it comes to laws. You need to understand trademarks. You need to understand who owns this and who does not own that. Because if you use something that is protected, that is copyrighted, you might end up into legal trouble. But before we move on to today's lesson, I need to introduce the terms that we are going to be looking at in this lesson. So we have got a concept called ethical standards. I think we all know what ethics are. And sometimes when someone does something that is not morally right, we say that it's not ethical. We all understand privacy. Some call privacy. I need some privacy. Identity theft, personal data, and malware. Which words, which concepts on this screen do you think you are not familiar with and they are new to you?
For me, I'd say it's malware. I've seen the word, but I don't really understand what it is.
Okay, yeah, the word malware is tricky because we also have malware attacks or malware ransoms, malware threat. Okay, Makosazana, which word do you think it's new to you?
Malware.
All right, malware, all right. Malware has to do with the devices and the links that we click, but we are going to unpack that because, with so many links that are out there, so many advertising that is out there, it's easy to come across a link that is malicious, which has got malicious software or toolbars, and once you download or once you click on that link, it can infect your device, or it can even access some sensitive information on your devices. So if a company ends up not protecting its websites or its digital platforms or its digital assets, and it gets infected with malware, it can have some legal implications on consumers. That's why companies always protect their websites and make sure that they're not vulnerable to hacking. They're not vulnerable to any form of diseases that are out there. As human beings, we are surrounded with diseases as we live in form of viruses and bacteria. or fungus. You know, COVID-19 is one of the virus that affected people to an extent that there were lockdowns. Online, there are also viruses, guys, that affect your browsing health, that affect your interactions with digital platforms. So it's always good for marketers to be well aware of the viruses that could lead to digital diseases that happen out there. That's why you'd hear people asking whether the computer has got an antivirus. Have you come across antiviruses, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we've got, what are the names of antivirus, the non-antivirus again? There is, we've got Avast. We've got an antivirus, for example, called Avast. We've got Kaspersky. There are so many antiviruses that we have out there. So these antiviruses, they are just a reminder that there are so many malware that can affect computers and the internet at large. So based on everything that I've discussed so far, Leo, welcome to the class. How do legal forces influence digital marketing? How do legal forces, let's say you are coming up with a marketing strategy and marketing planning at the moment. Why would you consider some legal ramifications for studies? Or you don't have to consider them at all?
You do have to consider them. I think, for example, I'm not sure, but apparently companies are not allowed to make advertisements for cigarettes, right?
Okay, why would they not allow companies to make advertising for cigarettes?
I honestly don't know the reasoning. I just know that it's sort of illegal, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it has something to do with health, because smoking cigarettes cause cancer. I don't know.
Okay, all right, who else? Why must you have some legal considerations when coming up with a digital marketing strategy or digital marketing plan? You people, are you ready to be digital marketers?
So it's difficult to answer the question.
All right, someone said copyright. Yes, copyright, that's okay. Okay, we'll get to that. Ntati said no, say this question is difficult to answer, but it's easy to understand. Okay, that's why we give you assignments, guys. So I hope assignments are not difficult to answer, or else you get a 0. Anyway, guys, how far are you with your assignments? Lego? I ask about assignments, then the whole group becomes quiet. Okay, let's move on. So, laws are developed in order to provide a framework of control and regulations that aim to enable individuals and brands to go about their business in a legal and ethical manner. So that's why we have law. Otherwise, if we do not have laws, it becomes very difficult to compete, and some can actually compete in an ugly manner. But what is a law? What are laws? So law is the body of binding rules and regulations, customs, and standards established in a community by its legislative and judicial authorities. So laws are the body of such rules that pertain to a particular topic, be it property law, be it common law. So we are bound to respect some laws so that we coexist as individuals. You know the saying that say, do whatever you want, but do not hurt others. So laws to some extent do prevent people from harming or hurting each other. However, laws are open to interpretation, and there are many legal and ethical considerations in the online trading environment. So it becomes very difficult to recognize the laws in the online trading environment because remember at the beginning of this year, we said that the digital community is not determined by geographical boundaries. The digital community is boundaryless. No one owns the digital community. So how then do we recognize the laws if the digital community is in the space? There's no country that can specifically have a claim that it owns the digital space. Compared to if you commit a crime, if you break a law in Johannesburg, Johannesburg is a physical territory which with some jurisdiction on it. You can be charged for that. You can be arrested for that. What about this the online trading environment? So it becomes very difficult. And we need to know that bodies that operate online are also registered physically. Even if you are Takealot, you operate in the digital space, you have chosen to be registered as a company in South Africa. You have chosen to be registered with CIPC. You have chosen to come publicly and say that you are based in Cape Town. So the fact that you are based in the physical world, it means that you need to recognize the rules and regulations of the physical territory where you operate from. So digital marketers should be compliant with the law and adhere to ethical standards, but the rate of technology innovation is rapid, and consequently, the law is often unclear. So realize nowadays there's much hype about ChatGPT. There's much hype about machine learning and artificial intelligence, whereby machines or computers or technologies can make decisions on their own, whereby machines or softwares or computers are able to act without human control. So they're equipped with automation. So in cases like that, who is then liable for compliance? Let's say chat GPT all of a sudden it's insulting people or inciting racism or fueling people to join a war. Who would you blame there? Who would you take to court? Would you take to court the chat GPT itself? What is going to happen, guys? If an automated software behaves badly online, it starts insulting people. Or where it was supposed to keep information confidential, all of a sudden it's releasing people's nudes. Will you be able to take that automated software to court? Because it has committed crime. It has violated someone's privacy.
No.
So these are the challenges that we are having. As technologies evolve, as there is much technological innovation, it's becoming very unclear when it comes to the law. So marketers need to tread carefully, since unethical action can result in serious damage to the reputation of a brand. And negative sentiment can result in a reduction in online traffic or sales. So even if you might end up not being in court as a brand, even if you might end up not being sued by the aggrieved parties, but the reputational damage that you can have as a brand can be huge. Nowadays, it's easy to boycott a brand. Commercial boycotts are very easy because a single hashtag can go viral and all of a sudden people are not associating themselves with a brand. So when coming up with digital marketing strategies or planning, one has to be aware of the legal ramifications and the ethical considerations that the campaign may have on both consumers and the legislative authorities. And there are many instances where digital marketing strategies have gone wrong and there was an outcry from people. Think about the clicks hair advert that went viral on Twitter, whereby the advert mentioned that when you look at someone who is white, their yellow is strong compared to someone who is black, their hair can break easily and stuff like that. So it incited racism, you know. The intentions might have been good, like someone who did that erroneously, they were not aware of damage it can cause, you know, like they did not intentionally incite racism. But that doesn't matter. What matters is the disrespect, the disregard of other humans who found offense on that marketing campaign or advertising. So these are the things that digital marketers have to tread very carefully, because you can be sued for saying something that divides communities. Nowadays, there's so much sensitivity, there's so much diversity and inclusion, being able to embrace, to tolerate, and appreciate people from all sides of human nature. So you can't say something that is gender offensive. You can't come across with you cannot come up with a marketing campaign that is gender sensitive or that affects other people's sexual orientation. So these are the things that can have legal ramification, especially considering that South Africa is a rainbow nation. Welcome to the class, Karabo. So laws are very necessary, guys, because they also guide productive behavior and elicit unwanted behaviors that divide societies. But it doesn't end there. Just like as it happens in societies, there are thieves on digital marketing platforms. Some people steal other people's ideas or use other people's ideas without accrediting the original inventor of that idea. So laws are there to protect people's properties. That's where we talk about intellectual property. Laws are there to protect people's text. That's why we have something called copyright. Laws are there to also protect customers. That's why we have got privacy laws. So we have got data protection law. Think about POPI Act. Do you guys know about POPI Act? Or you want me to ask you in your languages?
We know it.
Okay. So POPI Act has to do with the protection of personal information. So as many people across the country, especially as a result of lockdowns and many people doing things online, whenever we do something online, we leave our details, be it signing up, where they even ask your date of birth, when sometimes they even ask your ID number, your passport number, your gender, your address for shipping, for deliveries. Then there come a question of data protection. Like with all this information that we are giving out to brands, how are these email addresses, these physical addresses, protected by companies? So the POPI Act sets out the minimum standards regarding accessing and processing of any personal information belonging to someone else. So if you are Takealot and you've got people's physical addresses that they've put on the mobile application, the purpose of that data that you collected, the address, needs to be the same, and you cannot use the data for something else. That's what POPI Act is all about. The data must be used for its intended purpose as given by the user who is called the data subject. So if I'm giving you my data for deliveries, let it be strict to that way, be used for deliveries. But we have realized, especially when it comes to digital marketing and sales, companies are making money out of people's data. You have got people's phone numbers. All of a sudden, you are illegally selling those phone numbers to a third party. And all of a sudden, you are receiving SMSs from Sanlam saying that you need a funeral policy. When you know very well that you did not give Sanlam your details to contact you. So that's a violation of POPI Act. How many SMSs, guys, do you receive about goods and services, knowing very well that you did not give these people your phone numbers?
Every single week.
Yes. So that's a violation of POPI Act, and it does not have to do with brands. Even us in class, I now have your details, you now have my details. It has to be done in such a manner that it's related to digital marketing. The moment I start taking screenshot of your profiles, sending it to other people, or even to trafficking syndicates. Remember, guys, as much as we enjoy being online, online also have got its own vulnerabilities where kidnapping, sexual trafficking also happens. Are you aware of that? So these are the things that you need to be considering. We've got anti-spam legislation. You need to go through table 3.1 on page 116 of your textbook. It talks about significant laws that control digital marketing, and you need to be familiar with those laws. And also look at the following table, which is 3.2 on the next page. It also talks about the types of information collected online and the related technologies. But remember, as mentioned before, the rate of technological innovation is rapid, and laws that are existing today can be unclear tomorrow when there are new technologies or when there are new softwares that does things in a different manner. Remember, we spoke about digital disruption. Digital disruption can also disrupt the manner in which we apply laws in digital marketing. Then yes, there can also be discrimination when it comes to digital marketing. I know that many countries are now working on what we call the digital divide. Guys, what is the digital divide? Is it your first time hearing the term digital divide?
I've never heard of that term.
Makosazana, don't say digital divide is dividing the digital platforms into two.
It's the first time, sir.
Okay. All right. Digital divide is the gap between those who can access the digital community and those who cannot. Did you get that, guys?
Please repeat that, sir.
The digital divide is about those who can afford to be online versus those who cannot. So it is the unequal access to digital technology, including smartphones, tablets, laptops, and the internet. So the digital divide creates a division and inequality around access to information and resources. And the digital divide happens mostly in developing countries, which we can normally say are poor. For example, in South Africa, I know that there is a notable digital divide. There are so many people who cannot afford to have a smartphone. And some do have smartphones, but they cannot afford to be online because data is expensive. So in such a manner, digital divide can lead to discrimination because it deals with unequal access to the internet. Think about a company that is donating sanitation for girls online. So it's an NGO that is donating free, let's say free pads for young girls who cannot afford to buy pads online. Then those who are online can be able to go and collect, or can be able to be given a voucher to go and collect the pads elsewhere, maybe at the store or checker store. But what about those who cannot be online? Isn't that discrimination, guys? So I'm trying to illustrate a point that brands should be well aware of discrimination that comes with access to the internet. But it doesn't end there. There are people who have got many impairments to be online, such as those who have got poor vision. They're not necessarily blind, but they've got poor vision. Do they not have access to the internet? Do they not have the right to have information?
So I have a question.
Yes.
So, sir, spa is located in like designated areas. So, for example, maybe in areas where it's like middle class or upper class, people. And then now it takes out an app, like the Spa to You app. And then is it like this digital discrimination for the people that don't have access to the app? Like meaning that the app and the bikes that they use or the deliveries do not reach that areas.
That's not discrimination, because remember, people are buying from Spa. So it's up to customers whether they move and relocate near to Spa or they do something else to get close to Spa. It becomes discrimination when you are within the same community, but you are of different background. You request something on Spa and it's not being delivered to you, even if it's in the proximity of Spa. I will give you an example of discrimination that has been highlighted by you students. Someone said that Uber treats profiles differently. If you sign up with Uber with a white name, it's not the same way you would be treated if you sign up with Uber with Lebogang committee, right? So you'll be treating customers in an unequal manner. But the one that you are mentioning there, Lebo, that's beyond Spa. It's beyond their control. They can't be everywhere.
So they have like a niche market.
Yes. But if
Which,
they discriminate within their niche market, it becomes unethical.
okay, so for example, maybe let's say a scenario where you're in the same niche market, but Spa doesn't deliver faster for Black people, and that would be discrimination.
Yes, especially if it's proven that they're delivering faster for other people, like for white people, or if it's vice versa. Because remember, customers must be treated fairly, all of them, whether rich or poor, white or black.
Okay, so it makes sense.
Remember, these things do happen, guys, especially when it comes to tips. Remember, those drivers who does deliveries, they get tipped, right? So all of a sudden, the driver realized that if I deliver something to Lebo, I'm not going to get a good tip. Then they give you a certain attitude. But if they come to me and they know that people with Banda surname or people who are white or people are this, they always tip, then they are hospitable to me and nice. It means that they are not treating customers in a fair manner. Are you answered?
Yes, sir.
All right. And this can also be gender-based, guys. It's not only about race being black or being white. Sometimes brands, when it comes to their online activities, they can also be hostile to the other gender, be it female or be it male. I actually came across an article recently whereby a woman was airing her views that new technologies actually discriminate against women. So we even address these bots or these online automated tools as he. We say he, we don't say she. So on its own, that's discrimination, because there's a narrative that technologies can be more associated with men than women, which is completely wrong. So that's discrimination. The moment you identify a software and call it a he, instead of a she, it becomes something questionable. What's your take on this, guys? Artificial intelligence. Do you think it's more favorable to men than it is favorable to women? Please, men, don't be defensive. Let's be neutral. Women, don't be defensive. What's your take on technologies, guys?
Quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it up to the person who creates the artificial intelligence? I don't see the
Yes,
need for
it's up
giving
to
it
them,
a,
but they don't have to discriminate.
yeah, because I was gonna say I don't see the need for having a gender for an AI anyway, because it's not a person. It can't identify as anything. It doesn't have any identifying features.
But if you call it a chatbot Alexa and all of them are called Alexa, there's no chatbot called Kelvin or that have got a man's name. Won't men complain that those chatbots have got female names?
I was just gonna say
Yeah.
we haven't had or very few. We didn't complain when it was Bo Alexa, Bo Mang 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 Mang. But now that it's male AI is getting their names, it's a whole hoo-ha.
So,
Maybe I'm wrong.
Karabo, you're trying to say
Yeah.
that women are always complaining.
I'm not. I
Yeah.
didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Let's see a level.
Yeah, I agree
Yes.
with Kar. Yeah. Like we didn't complain. Siri is a woman, and the GPS
How?
is a
How?
woman, and we didn't complain. Say we've
How?
been used to that, and we didn't. We've never said technology is favoring women or anything. So now, just because the bots
No,
are
but you also need to understand that, for example, the ones that you guys are mentioning are voice automated applications. And yes, voice automated applications, they have to come in a woman's voice because a woman's voice is always soft. It's easy to comprehend than a man's voice. Just imagine, wait, Karabo. Just imagine when you are using GPS and it's like, turn left, turn right. Can you hear that? But women, it's a precise voice. Turn left. You can
That's
just hear that
discrimination.
it's actually turning
Is that
left.
saying that men can't be soft spoken?
Pardon?
That's discrimination. Is that saying that men can't be soft spoken themselves and their voices can't be pleasant?
Women, what are you saying? Mtati, Makosazana, what's your take on this? I don't think these guys are there. Okay, let's continue. But these are some food for thought, guys, when it comes to discrimination. Sometimes it's difficult for these things to be in black and white. So laws relating to discrimination against disabled users who may find it more difficult to use digital platforms because of audio, visual, or motor impairment are known as accessibility legislation. Digital platform accessibility refers to enabling all users of platforms to interact with it regardless of disabilities they may have or the web browsers or the platforms they are using to access the site. This is very relevant, especially to this class, guys. So imagine if there was someone with a hearing problem, or if there was someone with speech problem and we've got a virtual class. Don't you think that they were going to be disadvantaged if we are having lessons on Teams? So we normally don't think about these things, but believe me, there are in communities whereby people cannot have the right or cannot express themselves virtually because of their disabilities. Someone cannot see properly, then you put on the slides that are using dark colors. How are they going to see those slides? You know, and it becomes something that brains must be considered because brains of the 21st century must always push diversity and inclusion. So you need to recognize people from all forms of backgrounds. You cannot discriminate people based on their disability, their religion, their sexual orientation, their geographic location, and so on. So there's also what we call trademark protection. So under law, you can protect your trademark. That's why you'd see that it is always imperative to have your domain name registered. We are going to talk about domain names next semester on how you create and register a website. But you can see that, for example, if Boston Media House, it's bostonmediahouse.coza. No business out there would come up with the same domain because Boston has registered its domain. So if there's karabo.com and you have registered it as karabo.com, no one, even if their name is Karabo, are going to register their name as karabo.com. Because what happens is that they can commit crime, online crime, using a similar name, and then you are legally liable for any litigations. So that's why I would see you need to always protect your trademark. You need to protect your brand. You see Coca-Cola, at the end of Coca-Cola, it's written TM. So it's a protected trademark. It's not something that someone can just use for their selfish or greedy purposes. So there is also reputational damages in advertising. You'd see that in South Africa, you cannot advertise your product by denouncing your competitor. So that's why you see even domestos, when they are advertising, they advertise against competitor B. They just say competitor B. They don't say JIC. While this on these guys, I'm quickly looking for something that we can use as an example for this class. I hope I can get it. It's an advertise. Yes.
Are you sharing the screen?
I believe so, guys. Can you see my screen?
I can't.
What about others?
I can see it.
On my side, it says it's sharing. So maybe get out and get in again. We can be able to, I don't know.
Okay.
Please try to do so. Otherwise, I'll have to stop and reshare it. Let me quickly do so actually, then kicking you out, and I've stopped sharing it. Guys, can you see my screen?
No.
Okay, let me get in again. All right, let's see. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Or else you're going to accuse me of discrimination. I'm quickly getting you guys an example of a link that showed advertising that is not allowed in this country, because we're looking at advertising law here. Okay, here we go. Got it. I'm just waiting for it to open. So these are the things that you also need to consider, especially when you are employed in the marketing industry, that marketing initiatives needs to stick and to stick to the laws and to be compliant to the laws of the country. And as I've told you guys, laws can be at national level, they can be at provincial level as well, or even at municipal level. All right, let me click on this. Control clicks. I hope it's still there on YouTube. Okay, it's loading up. My internet seems to be quite slow because I'm on load shedding. Tough luck, guys. It's no longer, it seems no longer on the internet, but it shows it was an advert where there were someone was, I think it was in the UK, were advertising on Burger King. And denouncing McDonald's at the same time. Let me quickly check it on YouTube as well. But anyway, since I cannot find it, you guys can, I think I can. All right, let me share the screen. These things are relevant, guys, because you can even get fired at work. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Am I the only one who can't hear?
Did you see that, guys?
I saw it, but I couldn't hear anything.
What about others? Did you hear the sound? But the sound doesn't matter. The images are the ones that matter. So this kid bought McDonald's, and everyone was taking away that McDonald's from him. Then all of a sudden he had a Burger King thing and eating McDonald's behind Burger King, and no one could ask for it. I don't know if you get the implications of that. So it's trying to say that Burger King is not likable to people. So you cannot advertise like that in South Africa. You cannot include, or you cannot use or prove a point to your competitor in South Africa. But this was done in the United Kingdom, I believe. So those are things that you need to think about when doing advertising, because that can have many ramifications such as reputational damage. You also need to monitor brand conversations in social networks and blogs, especially the language that you use. You know, I feel like the society, the contemporary South African society is very sensitive on many things, you know, be it people's bodies, be it people's sexuality, be it people's masculinity. You say something out there, you need to think before you say something, because someone can be easily offended by what you say. So
Sir,
these things,
sorry to this. What time class? What time did the class start?
at 2:05,
2:10.
2:05.
Yeah. Okay, sir.
All right. Then we've got intellectual property rights. So these protect the design, ideas, and inventions, and also include content and services developed for commercial sites. We have seen the IP right back here in South Africa. The guy who invented Please Call Me for Vodacom and ended up being paid millions as a result of the legal battles that they had. So you guys are also going to come up with brilliant ideas. If you know that these ideas are going to generate millions, while you are earning 5,000, you can always protect your idea and make a living from it. You also need to be considerate of other people's ideas. You cannot just steal people's ideas, especially if they've been declared as an IP. You can get sued for that. So closely related to intellectual property rights is copyright law, which is designed to protect authors, producers, broadcasters, and performers by ensuring they see some returns from their work every time they are used. For example, there is an article that I wrote in the journal that I wrote. So it's IP protected. Whenever it is sold, I need to get something out of it, even though I co-authored with others. So these are things that you guys must be well aware of. The referencing that you do, you need to accredit someone for the work that they have done. You don't just use someone's information, especially if it's for commercial purposes, if you are getting money out of it. So this is, let me just quickly search Abednego Banda value, Abednego Banda value creation practices. I don't know if you can see my screen, guys. Can you see my screen, Karabo?
Yes.
You see, so I, together with two colleagues from UJ, I produce a journal, and as you can see, by A Banda, you know. So I'm the author of this, and even here at Sabinet Journals, you click there, Brand Innovation by A Banda. This is my work, and they sell it here. I'm just showing you guys how these things work, because you might also want to write something or produce something online. As you can see, by Abednego Banda, Marita Pritchard, but I was the co-author, that's why my name starts. If you want to read this, let's click here on PDF. PDF. You see, if you read it for 48 hours, it's $25. That's more than 200 rands. Can you see that? So when it comes to copyrighted laws, these guys are selling my journal. They cannot make a profit out of it without accrediting me. That's what copyright law is all about. So that's Subnet Journal. Then you come here, we have got this one, Taylor and Francis Online. They are also selling it. And already it has got 130 views. And if you say get access to this, you would see that it's being sold. Can you see that? $50, $258. So all of these have got everything to do with copyrighted materials. So I'm introducing you guys to these things because when you go out to the industry, there are things that you are going to create. There are books that you are going to write. There are softwares that you are going to design. You can always protect them according to the law so that you get a portion of what is being used, especially if it's for commercial purposes. And you also need to take note of other people's copyright rights. So when you are coming up with a digital marketing strategy, you cannot use someone's design and gain something out of it without their knowledge. That's theft, and you can be sued for that. Any questions about intellectual property? Any comments?
Actually, quick question. How easy is it to register your intellectual property?
Come again, I didn't hear you. Said how easy is it to register intellectual property?
Yes, so that it can be protected.
Okay, it's very easy, and I don't think it requires much money anyway. You just need which channels to go to, just like registering a company. It's not that difficult. You just need to know the channels because and the proper documentation. So you need to give proof that this information is yours, not someone else. Because you know, companies, especially companies, big companies, you've got a tendency of registering something for someone before that person registers it. So, for example, Karawa, you come up with something brilliant, and I know that is going to make money, but you haven't registered it yet. So I'll quickly register it on my name so that by the time you register it, it's already registered. So we do get people fighting for something saying that it was originally mine and this other person registered it before me. It is actually easy. They actually make it easier to register so that it becomes a nation's pride. Do we have artists in this class? Are you guys producing something on your own? That's what I'm trying to say. Is it,
Yes,
be
sir.
it in form of music?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so make sure that it's protected before someone claims it's theirs. Especially if it's something that you believe that is going to generate more income in the future. Then we've got online advertising law. As I showed you guys that McDonald's advert, advertising standards are enforced by independent agencies, and they also apply in the internet environment. So for example, we've got IAAB, if I remember, which regulates advertising. So one particular challenge for online advertising for consumer is that marketing communications must be obviously identifiable. So it might be in form of a logo or in form of characteristics that identifies a brand. You know, for example, it's easy to recognize an advert from Red Bull, even if it doesn't mention Red Bull. It's easy to recognize an advert from Nando's, even if it doesn't mention Nando's. Do you agree with me, guys?
Yes, sir.
Which brands do you think they must always consider the legal frameworks when doing their advertising in South Africa?
Nando's.
Nando's. Why?
They're always very close to overstepping the line.
Okay, true. Nando's. Which other one, guys? There's Nando's. Another one. Let me quickly try to give you another advert that needs to consider the ramification. I'm quickly getting there, guys. It won't take long. I just need to quickly go to my browsing history because I actually had some view to it this morning. Okay, can you see my screen?
Not anymore.
All right. Here is the advert. Can you see it now?
Yeah, bro.
Okay, I'm going to repeat it again so that you guys tell me what you see on that video. Please listen attentively. Can you hear the sound? All right. What is it that this advert is doing that is unethical? Because it created a big uproar in South Africa. What was the fuss about this advert? So Christians were offended and Muslims were also offended. So you know that incident in the Bible where Jesus, that miracle, where Jesus walked on top of water. Are you guys familiar with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this Red Bull advert, it implies many things. One, it implies that Jesus had to walk on top of water after having a Red Bull. Two, it says at the end, if you heard it at the end, it says that Jesus is actually looking where to step on the stones, meaning that he didn't actually walk on the water, but there were stones there where it was stepping on. So this was very offensive to Christians, and they even attempted to boycott Red Bull products. So this is one of the examples that can have many ethical and legal ramifications, because Christians can actually sue Red Bull. The Red Bull marketing team can lose their job here because they are sort of mocking Jesus, disregarding Jesus, something that many Christians look up to. So laws, in conclusion, laws are developed in order to provide a framework of control and a regulation that aim to enable individuals and brands to go about their business in a legal and ethical manner. So in an acceptable manner. However, laws are open to interpretations, and there are many legal and ethical considerations in the online trading environments. Us, as digital marketers, should be compliant with the law and adhere to ethical standards, but we also need to be well aware that the rate of technology is rapid, and as a result, the law can be unclear, especially when there are new hits on the block, such as ChatGPT, such as artificial intelligence. So we also need to tread carefully, since unethical action can result in serious damage to the reputation, such as brands boycott, and negative sentiment can result in a reduction in online traffic or sales. So, as digital marketing personnel, we need to consider the data protection and privacy laws. We need to consider the disability and discrimination laws. We need to consider the brand and trademark protection. We need to consider IP as well as advertising law. There are also other legal factors that I do not mention in this lesson that you guys need to read broadly and come across these, such as identity theft. What is identity theft, guys? Do you know identity theft? Have you been a victim of identity theft, or have you actually done identity theft in your life?
Yeah, I just think identity theft is when like they use your personal information without your permission.
Yes, true. So it's a sort of impersonification, using someone's credit card or payment details or email addresses as if you are those people. So this also have to do with POPI Act. Remember, companies like Takealot can actually know your banking details. So what if their employees get naughty and use your details to buy something else online? So that's why there are so many measures when it comes to e-commerce, so that the staff personnel do not have direct access to customer information and use that information for malicious intent. So that's it
Yeah.
about the legal forces, guys. Are there any questions or comments? Anything that you need to add on about the legal forces of a macro environment?
See,
Yes, Lebo.
like, can you tell me this is like identity theft or not? So there was a situation where the two employees were working in the same company, right? So so let's say this one, the A, took the pay slip. Okay, saw the details of the another employee's pay slip, and then she was like paying what you call this, a funeral plan, a funeral policy with the pay slip of employee B. So say then they found out that whole thing, that every time this person gets income, like the thing gets taken away, but it goes to employee A. So now
I
is it like
continue.
identity theft?
I don't think that's identity theft, but it can be debated. What are others says? What do you think, guys? Is it identity theft when you use someone's payslip either to get a loan or to pay funeral policy?
Yes, it is, because they're using someone else's money or payment.
But it's going to their name.
Yes. Because identity theft doesn't only apply to personal information like your name and all of those things. It also applies to money, like credit card number, for example.
Okay, Karabu, what do you think? I saw your mic on.
No. Thingy, that just squashed my point because I thought it was just gonna be under fraud. But considering the fact that you're using that person's what details, financial details, so that you can get the money, then I guess it is.
You guess it is what?
It's, what do they call this? Identity theft.
Okay. So based on what you guys are saying is correct, but I seem to differ with you guys. For me, I don't think it's identity theft. I think it's fraud. So you are getting money fraudulently. You know, there's a difference between identity theft and fraud. So what happens that this person is only using someone's payslip. Everything is theirs, but the only thing that they are using is the payslip to fraudulently pay for a funeral policy. But when it comes to identity theft, you steal someone's identity and get financial benefits as a result of that person's identity. So I'll give you an example of identity theft. We know that Karabo had someone who had a life policy that Karabo one day is going to be a beneficiary. So we know that in Karabo's name, he's capable of claiming 1.2 million from someone who had a life policy. That person put Karabo as a beneficiary. Then we pretend to be Karabo. That's identity theft. We pretend to be Karabo. We've got all Karabo's details, his ID number, and copies of the documents. And we claim that money in the name of Karabo. Do you see the difference, guys? Identity thefts happen even on Ntati. You wanted to say something?
No, I was saying I get your point.
So identity also happen, especially on dating sites, where someone would steal someone's identity. Remember, it's identity theft. So you are stealing someone's existence. On dating sites, I've got Karabo's picture. He's handsome. He goes to the gym. He's got these biceps and stuff like that. I put it under my profile and I put his name. So that person is actually dating Karabo, but doesn't know that in reality, she is dating me. I've stolen Karabo's identity. You wanted to say something, Karabo?
No, I was just flattered.
Okay, so that's the things that happen, especially on social media accounts. People see the identity. I can have all Tati's images and create an account on her name. I know her date of birth. I know her ID number and this and that. So it's identity theft. But this guy only had a payslip, nothing else other than a payslip, right? And was getting money based on that payslip. So that's fraud.
So now, sir, the way you're explaining it, it seems like identity theft only happens online.
No, it doesn't happen online only. Remember, we're talking about digital marketing, and digital marketing is all about digital platforms. Identity happens even in real life. Identity theft happens even in the physical world. Yes, Ntati? That
So-
your hand is up.
Yes. They say that identity theft is a method that is used to commit financial crime or financial fraud.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, that's true.
So
It can also be used to deceive others, as I said, in case of dating. But you can fish money out of someone who is based in UK.
Yes.
Okay. Lebo has got a hand up.
Say, so now
Mhm.
this person was pretending to be the other person just by using payslip. So in that policy, that let's say for example, that funeral policy, like
Mhm.
he had her children under that funeral policy, but she's not the one that's paying.
Mhm.
Yeah, so she's using. Okay, yeah, nah, say it's fraud. It's not identity theft because she's not.
Because I get what you mean.
Because she's
Maybe
not.
I didn't hear your example well. You're saying that, so let's say the person is Abednego Banda, and I've got a policy written in my name, right, as Abednego Banda, that even when I die, that policy gets activated, and I am the one who is going to benefit. It's going to cover my funeral, right? But I'm not paying for that policy. I've used Karabo's payslip to fund my monthly premiums for that policy. Is that what you mean?
Yes, but you
That's
didn't
fraud.
use Karabo's name.
Pardon?
You didn't use Karabo's name. You were using your name.
Yes. But I stole Karabo's payslip.
Yes, and now
With identity theft, I would use Karabo's name on the payslip
yeah, it
because
makes
I
sense.
pretend to be Karabo.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay. Any other questions, guys? It's always good to engage and discuss. Okay, I assume all is well with this lesson. And in the next lecture, we will be looking at the case study for legal forces. Remember, with all lessons, we unpack theory and then we look at a scenario to analyze the theory that we have unpacked.